remember Doug. The overflowing crowd this afternoon certainly represents the overflowing love for Doug throughout our city. When Doug passed away on September 7th, all of us lost a very dear friend. And Baltimore and MICA lost a most passionate advocate and action hero. I'm very grateful to Carol, Tenny, Chris, and Hannah for choosing MICA for this celebration of Doug's life. I, along with everyone at MICA, could not imagine a better place to recall and honor Doug and his legacy. MICA is very much Doug's professional home, but we are much more than that. I would argue that MICA was part of Doug's body and soul, and vice versa. We could feel his palpable presence through all that he made possible here, from buildings, to scholarships, to student services, to curricular programs. In fact, I don't believe there is one single thing that makes MICA shine that does not bear Doug's fingerprint somewhere in evidence. Of course, that Lazarus, my predecessor who will speak later, was Doug's great partner during the legendary tenures at MICA. Doug was retired by the time I arrived at MICA in July 2014. I had the good fortune to get to know Doug well because he was our resident historian at that time. I experienced firsthand what made Doug so special as a MICA treasure and as a human being. In fact, I knew Doug before I met Doug. During the presidential search that ultimately brought me to MICA, I researched MICA's history to help me decide if I should join that search. And I came across this fantastic history book that Doug wrote for MICA. And I was as impressed by the scholarship of the writer-researcher, and I was moved by the overwhelming passion for MICA just to jump off the pages. I took note of the name Doug Frost. When I arrived at MICA, Doug quickly became my MICA history angel. And I had very joyful lessons whenever Doug would come to my office or stop me on campus and show me a MICA document or MICA artifacts with stories attached. I knew at that time that Doug knew everything and everyone MICA, and what's really special is that every word that he said had carried this infectious love for our students and for the college. What was remarkable about Doug was that he was not stuck in history, even though he was such an expert in MICA history. He saw the connection between MICA's history, present, and the future. In our conversations, he commented astutely about the continued evolution of MICA and enthusiastically looked forward to new things to come for our students. He loved MICA students. While he was no longer the chief fundraiser of MICA during my time, the last 4 years, I could easily see why he was so phenomenal in inspiring support. I think everyone in this room will understand when I say that Doug, in his ever kind, ever gentle, and ever soulful ways, was the ultimate energizer who had a unique way to make us all feel so special, so positive, so valued, and so cared for, and so much a part of a larger purpose. So thank you, Doug, who's very much with us today, for having chosen MICA as professional dedication, and thank you to Doug's family for sharing Doug with MICA and with the city. And may our remembrance and celebration Doug now commence with Rector David Ware.
Good afternoon. So as you all know, MICA and Doug were very important to each other, and there was another place and another group of folks in Baltimore that were important to Doug, and that's the Church of the Redeemer. And so I'm so honored to be able to be here to represent that piece of his life as well. Let us pray. Accept, O God, our thanks and praise for all that you have done for us. We thank you for the splendor of the whole creation, for the beauty of this world, for the wonder of life, for the mystery of love. We thank you for the blessing of family and friends, and for the loving care which surrounds us on every side. We thank you for setting us at tasks which demand our best efforts, and leading us to accomplishments which satisfy and delight us. We thank you also for those disappointments and failures that lead us to acknowledge our dependence on you alone. We thank you for our brother Doug. Grant us the gift of your Spirit, that we may know God and make God known, and through him at all times and in all places, may give thanks to you in all things. Amen. I'd like to say with all of you who know it, the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen.
Good afternoon. I am Doug, Margie Frost's sister, Jimmy. Thank you all for joining our family on this important day. I want to show you something. This flag, 48 stars, flew at our home for all the time we lived in Pelham. This Bible is the Lee Pomeroy Thayer Brown family Bible. The names of each family member, every one of you, Lee Frost, Pomeroy Thayer Brown, blood in you. Your name is in this Bible. Births, marriages, deaths. This record dates from 1866 in Montgomery, Alabama. The Lee line in America set foot in Farmington, Connecticut in 1634. You can certainly imagine how knowledge of our family's history and of America's history coursed through all of our veins. Heavy. The beacons who inspired the pursuit of knowledge and lit our way, those Margie's and mine, were our parents Jean and Bill Frost. Our summertime companions were the World Book Encyclopedia, the World Atlas, and the World Almanac. All of those volumes often were sitting at the side of our supper table at the end of the meal because they had served to help us as we discussed current events, or history, or art, or literature, or science. Our parents, with a high school education, expanded their education into many arenas throughout their lives. They were curious, they never stopped learning, and they led by example. They pointed the way. They sacrificed a lot so that Doug, Margie, and I could acquire a 4-year college education. I have some snapshots for you. Doug, the author historian. Doug, we all knew, had roots in this childhood I just described. Now, most of you know about the tome that Doug wrote about MICA, and I could not live down in the Bible. But that was not his first publication. This is what he published in the early 60s. And it's dedicated to our grandfather, Montague Lee, who wrote a sensitive tribute to his grandfather. And Christopher Montague Lee Frost was named for Grandfather Lee. Doug and music. Doug, whom I always call Frere, so I'm going to just continue like that. He played both the tenor and the alto sax, as well as the clarinet. Orchestra, band, dance band, the whole high school did. In the mid-50s, because we lived close to Glen Island Casino on Long Island Sound, he and I would attend many a concert there on Sunday afternoons. And this was big band times with Dorsey, Glenn Miller, Count Best, Big C, Les Elkhart. I paid my own way. I was in 9th grade. I paid my own way, so I was a cheap date for him. We were underage, but there it is. Frere later moved on to MJQ, Miles Davis, Ann Kenton, Ahmad Jamal, leaving the big bands behind. Jazz was his constant companion the rest of his life, and what we heard just now is just an extension of that. Another snapshot. And that's Doug as the community organizer. Wait to hear this. We lived in a neighborhood in Pelham, New York, small town right outside of New York City. Houses quite close together, lots of kids, and we played outdoors until after sunset every night. This was just after the war. Our street had some 20 families of many nationalities. We had Swedes, Irish, French, Polish, German, English, Italian, and 2 French-English couples. We were Americans. Frere was aware then and from then on of how folks with different backgrounds could get along, especially if we played together. One summer when he was 9, he wrote, produced, and directed a play, for all of the kids on the street to be in. There were 12, 14 of us. And we presented the play in the back door. Neighbors, as well as our mailman, came twice a day, attended with goal to make enough money to buy a nice toy for Brian Corrigan, the 6-year-old boy across the street who had been stricken with polio. Sound like Doug? Doug, the arts lover. As a high school senior, Frere fashioned himself as a budding artist and poet. Jack Kerouac's On the Road was a regular companion at the supper table. He loved New York City, so when he had what you might call a modest portfolio of his artwork, he, Margie, and I would take the subway into the city, Greenwich Village, of course. Inspired by the works on the walls of the Lazarus caves, he propped his artwork up against some really pretty beat-up walls in the village. Cave art, urban art, sound familiar? He sold one. Frere the leader. Frere was class president in his senior year of high school. Elected for his outgoing personality, his ability to connect with classmates and faculty, his creativity, his organizational skills. And he continued in that role through class reunions as recently as 3 years ago. And in his family, he played that role, and in the community, and in MICA. Frere the citizen. Back to the supper table. Our parents were active citizens who served their nation and their community, both as elected elected officials, and the volunteers. They set the tone for us for service, but it was never my country, right or wrong. They worked their entire lives to improve our society. And there's a straight line from them to Douglas Reed Frost and to his children. Thank you. Prayer. You taught me to look, to listen, to embrace nature and art, to pay attention to good design, to care for others, to be a critical and involved citizen, and to nourish the bonds of our family. Your ancestors, right in this Bible, and your descendants, right here at this gathering, and say, Amen. A life well. Thank you.
My father always made a very special connection with every person he met. Ginny just mentioned that. It was always genuine. There was no such thing as small talk with my father. It did not exist, not in his vocabulary. I was lucky enough to be his daughter and spend 47 years making special connections with my father, and one of ours was poetry. It started when I was a very young child. He drove me to nursery school in his blue VW bug. And we had memorized The King's Breakfast, the poem from when we were 6, I know. And we could recite it together the whole way from house to the nursery school. I was 4, and I thought, oh, when I'm 6, I'll be able to do more with poetry. I've been mentally preparing for a couple of years now, in all honesty, about this moment, this occasion. And I always thought, what would I say? Where would I start? How much time will I have? And then it occurred to me, I'll read a poem, naturally. And I chose a Theodore Roethke poem, because he was one of his favorite poets. Late in life, very, very recently, my father told me of his first childhood memory. And I said to myself, remember this, Hannah, before he even started. He remembered as a young boy that there was grass around the driveway in their Pelham home. I think he said he could see it from his bedroom window, but Ginny can verify. And he said that in that grass, in that area, there was an overabundance of 4-leaf clovers, and that he'd love to go down there and look for them. And I just love this image of my dad down on the earth, looking amongst the green grass for the very special things in our world, the anomalies that have special meaning to us. And I feel like that he did that all his life, with every person he met, every park that he was in, everything he did was about connecting to something very special and recognizing it. He had a poet's sensibility. The waking. I wake to sleep and take my waking slow. I feel my fate in what I cannot fear. I learn by going where I have to go. We think by feeling. What is there to know? I hear my being dance from ear to ear. I wake to sleep and take my waking slow. Of those so close beside me, which are you? God bless the ground. I shall walk softly there and learn by going where I have to go. Light takes the tree, but who can tell us how? The lowly worm climbs up a winding stair I wake to sleep and take my waking slow. Great nature has another thing to do to you and me. So take the lively air and lovely learn by going where to go. This shaking keeps me steady, I should know. What falls away is always and is near. I wake to sleep and take my waking slow. I learn by going where I have to go.
I'm Karl Scheibe, for those of you who don't know. Jenny, nice job. Jenny and I talked on the phone a couple of weeks ago, and we realized that we shared sort of a common goal for today. We felt like there was going to be a lot of awareness in the room about my father's contribution to MICA, but we wanted people to know about his early life. And Jenny, I think, was talking mostly about the 40s and 50s, and my goal was going to be to kind of pick up from there. You know, I think a lot of times when we think about the 50s, we might think about Elvis Presley and Bobby Sox, and I hope you got the idea that my father wasn't a part of that. Not only did he read on the road, but he went on the road. He drove around out west, and when he got back, he was a writer, and none of you all know the extent of it. And the reason is, you didn't have access to the basement like I did. In 1960, I'm taking you past the 50s though. In 1960, his world changed. He married my mother, Nancy Weeks, and he had a child. That was me. But that's not all that he did. By day, he was working at Trinity College as the assistant director of development. And at night, he was working on a special project with a couple of very interesting collaborators, actually three. One of them was William Styron, another one was a man named Bert Holland, and the third was George Will. The project involved a murderer, a confessed murderer who had been sentenced to death. The three of them went on an effort to get his sentence communicated so he life in prison instead. My father worked on this for years, had their full involvement. I have letters from these other gentlemen to prove it. Oh, by the way, the third Nancy was a man named Bert Holland, who was one of his professors. And Bert Holland had been a prisoner of war in Japan. My father's role in it also involved interviewing the prisoner, helping get the prisoner a typewriter, and speaking with his family. Now I'm going to take you to 1963. On November 23rd, 1963, my father had a meeting in Boston. It had been set up by his New York literary agent with two executives from the Little Brown Publishing Company. This was November 23rd, 1963. Here's an excerpt from the letter of his literary agent, that's the man in New York, back to from the publishers to the literary agents. What the publisher said was, "We had just begun to summarize the points with Doug over coffee." By the way, the points were that his book might not be marketable, and they were probably right. So we had just begun to summarize the points with Doug over coffee when the waiter announced that the president had been assassinated. And to be perfectly frank, I cannot recall any of the subsequent conversation. For many years in America, there was an expression people used. They would say, "Where were you when JFK was shot?" My father was in a meeting with the potential publisher of this book. On November 23rd, JFK was dead, and his manuscript was laid to rest. It's about 200 to 300 pages, double-typed, footnotes, chapter. It was a completed manuscript. 4 days later, I was sent off to Boston myself. I stayed with my cousins. Thank you very much, cousins. My mother and Nancy went down to Washington, D.C. to watch JFK's funeral procession. They stood in the crowd, the parade was 40 blocks long and 10 people deep. And I put that detail in there because that's what my father would do. He would definitely put that detail in there. After that, there was no more manuscript, but there was a lot more writing. The yellow pads started to come in by the truckload. It wasn't a book. It was poems and short stories, and there were a lot of them. He submitted the poems in particular to magazines and journals, too numerous to list here, but to give you some examples: The Nation, The New York Times, The New Yorker, Esquire, Commonweal, and some others. One of the rejection letters recommended that he read Rodkey, which was the poem that Hannah just read. Okay. We didn't collaborate, by the way. Another recommended that he get a movie camera, because he was a good noticer. A third one recommended that he read Yeats. A fourth one came from Yeats, rejecting his poem. Playboy even sent him a letter. They were passing on the printing of the poem, but they thanked him for his interest. My favorite poem from that period was entitled Selected Readings from the Manhattan Telephone Directory. It was 11 pages long. It had a lot of white space. And actually, I found it quite readable. I thought it was rather compelling. 1966, we moved here to Baltimore. The Orioles were just getting good then. It was a good time. And somewhere around then, my father introduced me to Vonnegut. Now, most people get introduced to Vonnegut by a copy of Cat's Cradle from a garage sale. We did it a little differently. We drove up to his house and parked in Cape Cod. My father got out, went to the door, knocked, and got his book signed. It's true. When we got back to Baltimore, my father wrote an apologetic letter to Kurt Vonnegut. Kurt Vonnegut wrote him back a letter of some length mentioning his uncle in Baltimore, who also knocked on doors uninvited. We're going to get back to that in a moment. All right. The next thing I'd like to do is fast forward probably about 10 years. And I want to read a letter that my father wrote to me. I think there's something in this letter for everyone in this room who knew him. If you didn't know him well, then you're going to learn some things. It says, Chris, this menu comes from the section of Harper's Ferry that hasn't been purchased by the federal government to become part of the national park. Hannah, your mother, and I were there today, October 14th, after spending some time in Antietam, scene of 23,000 casualties in one day. Compare that to the 9,000 casualties on D-Day in World War II. My father's details. The last time you were in Antietam was on a picnic with the Plant family, bird watching in 1971. Today we walked along the C&O Canal beside the Potomac River. Some of the water in the Potomac, so to speak, was the same water that fell on game number 1 of the World Series. I had the pleasure of going to game 1 twice this past week. The night it didn't happen, and the night it did happen. And we won 5-4. Ethel Ennis sang the old banner, and fans have adopted the trend of shouting, "Oh," when that word appears in the lyrics. Creation at the station. Creation at the station took place yesterday, and your mother served about 750 hot dogs. The girls were also there for hours, and they now have their photos on buttons and samples of calligraphy. It was a media success, especially including Evening Magazine. I also made a film myself. Got the camera. And I hope it's not out of focus all the time. The hamsters from Hannah's 3rd grade class are our guests this weekend, and they are staying in your room. They stay up even later than you do. They are the same color as the dog, who is having her first evil thoughts. We may have to send her someplace for rehabilitation to restore her purity of thought. Do you have any suggestions? Here's the letter. Fountain pen, back of the menu. I want to point out that I don't think it's a coincidence that it's written on the back of a menu. It's just coming back from the Civil War, and Gettysburg Address. I don't think that's a coincidence. No cross-outs, although there does appear to be a little confusion over the spelling of Antietam. So here we are. I think a lot of my father's success or achievement can be attributed to the people in the room. I'm thinking of Fred Lazarus, other teens, and the whole advancement team at MICA. And also, of course, Carol, who, as my father wrote in his later book, that had helped him every day, every step of the way. But I don't think that we're here because of my father's accomplishments or achievements. I do not think that's the case. I think we're here because we liked the way he was. He liked his character. He never made you feel bad. His kindness and caring were always evident. He would call you up to thank you for a thank you note that you had sent. Vonnegut had an uncle in Baltimore, Uncle Alex. What Uncle Alex used to do is he used to interrupt conversations, even interrupt himself to say, "This is nice, isn't it?" And what Uncle Alex was trying to say is, people forget, when times are good, when things are going well. My father did that. Actually, I think he said, "This is great, isn't it?" I'm saying it now. I think this is great. So glad you're all here. I think we're all saying it. Okay? It's not great that he's gone, but it's great that we're all here and acknowledging the qualities that he had. It's a crazy world out there, but it's not a crazy world in here. So, thank you all for coming. I'm glad we're all sharing our admiration of the qualities that he had. I hope they rubbed off on me, because I think I've seen them rub off on people standing in line beside him in Eddie's.
So I was not aware that we were speaking in decades, but somehow, miraculously, and I have to credit it to Chris's good planning, I'm actually a decade later. 31 years ago, when Doug married my mother, Carol, he, Chris, Tenny, and Hannah graciously welcomed me and my brothers into their lives. We were so lucky. Doug taught me many things over the years. As he did with all of us, he regularly shared history lessons, interesting facts he heard on NPR, and even baseball statistics
about the Orioles. But for me, the most meaningful were the life lessons that I learned simply by spending time with Doug as he shared his love, joy, and kindness with those around him. I cannot imagine better words to describe Doug: loving, joyful, and kind. I have many great memories of the holidays, vacations, and weekend visits spent together. In particular, I remember one winter arriving at the house on East Lane for a visit after a very long drive from North Carolina with 3 small children, having, as was usually necessary, taken the long route around BC traffic. Just a little frazzled as we piled out of the car, Doug greeted us with his wide, warm smile and a big embrace, helping us to unload the grandchildren and the abundance of stuff that comes along with a young family of 5. He asked with a mischievous grin and a chuckle, planning to stay for a while? He was such a wonderful greeter, and it was very good to arrive. Doug had already set the dinner table with a centerpiece created from the great outdoors, holly branches from the yard, shiny green apples carefully picked from Addie's, and pine cones discovered on his morning walk. With excitement, he described the relevance of each of the component parts to us, and, reminded of a bird sighting that he had seen that morning, he asked, "Have you ever seen a red-bellied woodpecker?" Based on his enthusiasm, I knew there must be something special about red-bellied woodpeckers. Doug was quick to satisfy my curiosity as he grabbed his very heavily earmarked Audubon's bird book and found the woodpecker with its surprisingly white belly, bright red head. He and I delighted in the irony. After dinner, Doug asked if he would like to see the Christmas light display on 34th Street in Hampton. Though he had seen the lights 100 times over the years, and likely several times that year, his enthusiasm for sharing it with us was contagious. Who else but Doug could get the grandkids to voluntarily be strapped back into their car seats? Wandering down 34th Street with its lights all around us and even overhead, it was difficult to tell who was having more fun, Doug or the grandkids. I know that each of you has your own fond memories of time spent with Doug. In his honor, let's continue to find joy in the little things in life, like red-bellied woodpeckers, handcrafted centerpieces, and holiday traditions. And as Doug would, share an abundance of love and kindness with everyone around us.
I've been looking forward to this moment for a long time. I hear the music, I hear the poetry, I hear the wonderful words expressing care and grace. And that's Doug Frost. So I'm happy to be here. I'm Karl Scheibe. I'm a Trinity College classmate of Doug's. I'm a retired professor from Wesleyan University, and I have some remarks that I'd like to read to you. Doug Frost and I were assigned to room together as freshmen at Trinity College in 1955, a long time ago, folks. We quickly became friends. Despite his being raised in Pelham, New York, and my being raised in rural Illinois, we discovered common interests and an immediate enjoyment in each other's presence. We were about the same height, same weight, and both were from high schools rather than the prep schools that comprised the educational background of about half of our classmates at Trinity. We were teammates on the track team at Trinity for all 4 years, where Doug became, this may surprise some of you, a competent shot putter. Despite his not being built for the sport. But what he lacked in size and weight, he made up for in determination. Because he often seemed easygoing and casual, people could miss the determination. But it was really there. This was a part of his character, determined. Coming right to the end, when I visited with Doug the last time here in Baltimore, just 2 days before he died, quality of determination comes through in the several photographs that I was bold enough to take. You could see it in his face. He was determined to get through his lunch, to speak and to hear, and somehow determined to muddle through the requirements of being a word, and to minimize being a burden to Carol and to others around him. We decided to room together again in our sophomore year at Trinity, while at the same time our pathways began to diverge. We joined different fraternities. One of his fraternity brothers at least was here, and we discovered we both sang in the Glee Club in different registers. We discovered a common interest in English literature, and both of us made a favorite and a poet and professor of Samuel French Morse. Over the remainder of our undergraduate years together, we remained friends, good and confident friends, but we both developed many other friendships among our classmates, so our friendship was far from exclusive. Later, I went on to pursue graduate study at the University of California in Berkeley, and Doug went on to graduate school for a time at Yale, even while he was working part-time at Trinity. His comment on graduate school was this: the stacks were dry and dusty. Doug found his true calling in development, first at Trinity and then from 1966 until the end of his life at MICA. The names that Chris mentioned a while ago, Bill and Bert Holland, and people like that, were all people I knew pretty well. They were extremely important in Doug's life at that time. After receiving my degree from Berkeley, I came back to Connecticut, joining the faculty at Wesleyan, where I remain, now retired, to this day. Our proximity to each other back in the 1960s allowed our friendship to flourish again and enabled me to be present and become a godfather to Tenny. Even after his move to Baltimore, we would manage to see each other occasionally. While a few years might pass between meetings, ours was a sort of friendship where conversation would resume right where they left off. Whether the interval of the last time was measured in minutes, days, months, or years, that's the way it was. Just pick up the conversation and let me go. Just a few years ago, we enjoyed collaborating on an article we published jointly in the Trinity College Reporter about a classmate of ours, Paul Goodman, a distinguished economist from Carnegie Mellon University, of whom we were both very fond. as for that determination in him, I saw that quality manifest repeatedly throughout his life. He was determined to be a good father, and he was, and cared passionately about his family. His illustrated history of MICA is simply magisterial. A record of unflagging determination and a capacity to recognize and acknowledge the poetry of life as it is revealed in the realization of artistic imagination. Being cast as a roommate of Doug Frost was one of the happiest accidents in my life. Thank you.
You guys look great. Thank you for being here. Reflecting on the fine qualities and characteristics of my father, I draw upon a ton of great memories. I pause and think about him as a writer, a poet, a calligrapher, an artist, a communicator, a thinker, an advisor, a strategist, a gatherer, an organizer, a connector, a mentor, an educator, a host, a gracious guest, an advisor, and a cheerleader. He was a maker, a gardener, a bird watcher, an enthusiastic trooper down the Gunpowder River, a positive force, a voice of reason, and the president of the Betty Cook fan club. He was a traveler, a memory maker, a guy with an extra bandana in his pocket just for you. He was a rule follower, a rule breaker, a dreamer, a peacemaker, a great swimmer, an elegant diver, a fisherman, and a flirt. He was a historian, an honorary Californian, and I truly believe he was a reincarnated Amish farmer. He was also the seeker of the perfect countryside stone wall. He was a Roland Parker, a Stony Run champion, a Baltimorean, an O's fan. He was a brother and an uncle and a loving grandfather, a father, and I also think of him as a very trusted friend. When you were with him, didn't you think he made you feel like you were the most important person in the room? Or in the car with him, or at an event? Wasn't he always a thoughtful listener, an active contributor to the conversation, and a valuable collaborator? Don't you think he always relished in connecting with people one-on-one as much as he did in large groups? Oh, our very gregarious and extroverted Doug. As we move forward, let's all keep a little ray of Doug's sunshine and spirit within us. Let's be generous with our time and our talents and our treasures. Let's be kind to one another and to ourselves. Let's be optimistic about our relationships and our impact at work, within our own communities, our nation, and our world. And let's be sure to flash a big old smile onto others as we go about our day. It is bound to shift the energy. It is bound to brighten up someone's day. and it is bound to help things go just a little smoother. Because you see, these are the things that Doug would do. Rest in peace, Dad. We all loved you so much and are grateful for the friendship and the unconditional and everlasting love you bestowed upon all of us over the years. Thank you.
It's hard to follow. Good afternoon, I'm Fred Lazarus. It's an honor for me to be back in this space, a space that Doug loves so much, surrounded by Doug's family, with all of you who, like me, benefited so much from Doug's friendship, the love and caring that we've all been talking about, and the great accomplishments for this college. Carol, all of your family, Tenny, Chris, Anna, thanks for being part of this program. 40 years ago today, this month, I started working at MICA. In those days, my office was in that corner. The first morning I was here, probably moments after I arrived, Doug walked into my office to greet me. And I cannot recall a day that we spent together here at MICA that we did not talk. During all those decades, Doug's fingerprints, his values, his passion were on everything that happened at MICA. And during his tenure that preceded me, his fingerprints were all over that as well. Doug's enthusiasm and love for this college brought so many people, many of whom are here today, to this college. It made them huge supporters and enthusiasts for MICA. Al Becker, George Munton, Ann Perkins, Alice Wright, Rob and Jane Meyerhoff, Neil and Sarah Meyerhoff, Marcella Brennan, June McMillan, Betty and Bill, Wally Pinker and his parents, Fred Worthington, and I could go on for hours with the people that came to this college because of that. Whether he was taking a corned beef sandwich and a scholarship recipient to have lunch with Marcella Brenner outside of Washington, or sending a birthday card or a flower to one of the many people who were involved in his college, Doug's taste, style, and commitment were what became MICA's culture. Doug's love of historic buildings and architecture were key to the endless proposals that he personally wrote, yes, with his pencil on yellow pads, to support this college and its development. Every project from the Mount Royal Station in his early tenure to the Lazarus Center at the end had Doug's fingerprints all over it, as we say. His love of the outdoors and nature and gardens and landscaping, with John's help, led to the creation of Cone Plaza, the Worthington Triangle, Sally's Garden, and yes, Frost Plaza. And then there were all the programs that Doug has created that marked MICA as a great institution and helped build our reputation for the quality of education. However, Doug was so much more than the millions of dollars he brought to this college. He and his team did that, but he did something else. And he did more than build relationships with individuals to this college. Doug was the glue that made MICA the family that it has become. Ask O'Reilly Hawkins, or the member of faculty that Doug would speak to around this campus. Ask anybody who worked for him, and so many of you are here today. Doug was always interested in each of them, in their families, and what they were working with, and his constant desire to support them, and his constant smile was what made him so special. Doug knew better than anybody the importance of history in the past and our present. None of that was more evident in the incredible book that's been mentioned already today, his book on MICA. It's also why so many alums who had left this college came back to this college, because Doug was able to relate their experience to the MICA of today and the MICA of the future. Doug's past, his legacy, is so much a part of our lives today and in our future. Our personal futures, as Tenny talked about, in our college future. Every week that I walk my dogs in Stony Run, I think of Doug. Every time I set foot on this campus in one of these buildings or look around, I think of Doug. Every time I see a student who is benefiting from one of the scholarships that Doug set up, I think of Doug. I am reminded of his legacy and how lucky I was that he was here at MICA to greet me on my first day at work. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Chris, Tenny, Hannah, all of you for sharing this wonderful guidance.
So many friends, so many family. You have all echoed my thoughts. Here today, I could say a lot more, but I don't think I could right at this moment. At the risk of sounding a little like the Oscars, I would like to thank Sammy for hosting. I would like to thank the MICA event staff and Fred for helping us pull all of this together. You've been wonderful. I'm ever so grateful for our family. For our family and friends who came here today to celebrate Doug. The cards and letters that I've been receiving for the last couple of weeks are a reflection of your love for him and me, in support of the family. He meant a lot to you, and I want you to know how much you meant to him. He loved you all. We were married 31 years ago, June 6th, D-Day, and he picked that day. I was 31. This is D-Day. So we had a wonderful, wonderful life together. As you all know us very well. So I'd like to share a few words of wisdom from a 12-year-old granddaughter. Be kind, work hard, have fun. Immediately following the closing by David Ware, there will be a reception and a slideshow in room 110. I hope you can join us in remembering our times with Doug. Thank you.
And there are two ways to get to the reception, one on the left, my left, and one on the right. So I've been asked to encourage you to move to those doors right when we're done. Would you please stand? Into your hands, O merciful Savior, we commend your servant, Doug. Acknowledge, we humbly beseech you, a sheep of your own fold, a lamb of your own flock, a sinner of your own redeeming. Receive him into the arms of your mercy, into the blessed rest of everlasting peace, and into the glorious company of the saints in light. Amen. My brothers and sisters, life is short. We don't have too much time to gladden the hearts of those who travel life's way with us. So be swift to love and make haste to be kind. And the blessing of God Almighty, the one who creates us and redeems us and sustains us, be with you this day and forevermore. Amen.